What is uy? Uy for this should be equal to u sine beta. For the second part, it will be u square sine square beta by 2g. Similarly, h1 should be equal to uy square by 2g, but now it is for the first particle, that is u square sine square alpha by 2g. Okay, now put the value of alpha and beta. So I know that beta equals to theta and alpha equals to 90 minus theta. So it is written as u square sine square theta by 2. If a drop from a tap fall with zero initial velocity means particle or the drop has been released with zero speed. The ratio of displacement of the drop in first, second, third second of equation. Okay. So first second means what? At t equals to 0, the particle starts from, let us say, the point D. After 1 second, particle goes to B point, where the time is 1 second. Let us say after 2 seconds, the particle goes to C point, where the time is 2 seconds. Then after 3 seconds, the particle goes to D point, t equals to 3 seconds. Okay. So the distance that has been traveled by the particle in first second means this much distance. Let us say I am saying S1. Particle travel the distance in second second. Second second means this much. Okay, S2. Last is S3. So this is ratio. Okay. So if I say S1, S1 becomes half at square by ut plus half at square. U is 0. So only half at square, one g by 2 t square, 5t square. Okay. d by 2 t square and 5t square. So t is 1. So 5 meter. So distance traveled by the particle in 1 second is 5 meter. Now if I add S1 plus S2, S1 plus S2 nothing but the displacement of the particle in 3 seconds. S1 plus S2 is the displacement of the particle in 2 seconds, because after 2 seconds the particle is over here. So can I write half at square in g into 2 square? Particle travels a distance of 2 S1 plus S2 in 2 seconds. So S1 plus S2 is half d into t square. T square means 4. So 2g. 2g means 10 meter into 2. 2g. 20 meter. Okay. So S1 plus S2 is 20. S1 is 5. So can I say S2 equals to 15 meter? Okay. Now again, the particle travels the total distance of S1 plus S2 plus S3 in 3 seconds. So S1 plus S2 plus S3 in 3 seconds means half gt square. Half g into 3 square means 9 by 2. Means 4.5 into g means 10. That is 45 meter. So that means S3 should be equal to what? 45 minus 20. 45 minus 20. Why 20? S1 plus S2 number 20 page. That is 25 meter. Okay. So now the question said that what is the ratio between 1, 2 and 2. So S1 is to S2 is to S3 equals to how much? S1 is 5. S2 is 15, is to 25. 1 is to 3 is to 5. The deceleration experienced by a moving motorboat after this engine is cut off is given by dvdt equals to minus. So deceleration negative sign. So dvdt equals to minus kv, where k is constant, and v naught is the magnitude of the velocity at cut off. Let us say the car is moving with a velocity of v naught, and at that point I applied the brake. So for that the retardation takes place. So ultimately one point will come when the velocity becomes 0. Because retardation is there, so here the particle will be rest. So this is called the cutoff point. That's a cutoff point. So at this point, the retardation is dvdt equals to minus kv. Okay. V naught is the magnitude of the velocity at the cutoff. The magnitude of the velocity at a time t after cutoff. Okay. So after any time t, the velocity will be less than that number. Let us say at any time t, the car is moving with a velocity v. Okay. And the time interval between these 2 points is t. So retardation, that is a, is given as minus kv. Yeah, that is equals to dv dt equals to minus kv cube. So can I write dv by v cube equals to minus k into dt? Now integration of this. So at time equals to t equals to 0. K a constant বাইরে রেখে দিয়েছি। At t equals to 0 time, velocity is the velocity at the cut of the v naught. At t equals to t, velocity should be equal to v. So left hand side integration is v to the power minus 3 plus 1 divided by minus 3 plus 1. Okay, limit is from v naught to v. Right hand side is minus k into t, limit is from 0 to t. এবার যদি একটু সিম্পলিফাই করে নিই, so v to the power minus 3 plus 1 v to the power minus 2 by minus 2. So v to the power minus 2 by minus 2, v to the power minus 2 means 1 by v square into with the minus 2 up. That should be equals to minus k into t. Bracket 0 থেকে t naught, bracket v naught to v. So now negative signs will cancel out. So if I put the value, so half into 1 by v square minus 1 by v naught square. That should be equals to k into t naught. Okay. So now I can simplify the value to get the value of v naught, v. So that means 1 by v square minus 1 by v naught square equals to 2 times k t naught, or 1 by v square equals to 1 by v naught square plus 2 k t naught, or 1 plus 2 k t naught v square, v naught square divided by v naught square, that is equals to 1 by v square. So if I simplify, so v becomes v naught divided by under root of 1 plus 2 kt v naught square. So under this part, I am discussing about the projectile motion. Projectile motion is a particular example of motion when the particle is moving in a 2D coordinate system. 2D means one is the x coordinate, একটা x coordinate থাকবে, another is the y coordinate. So under the xy coordinate system, that means the entire particle is moving in a plane. That plane is called the xy plane. So since the particle is moving in xy plane, that means it is performing a 2D kind of motion. So projectile motion is the basic example of a 2D motion. So example of 2D motion means this. So whenever the water is being sprinkled at a particular point, so the particle of water are flowing in this direction, are going in this direction. Ultimately, they are performing a projectile motion. Okay, because entire particle or water particles are moving in a plane which is in this plane. এই প্লেনটাতে ওয়াটার পার্টিকেলটা মুভ করছে, সো ইট ইজ দ্য কাইন্ড অফ xy plane. So in that xy plane the particle is moving means it is performing a 2D kind of motion. So projectile motion means it should be a 2D kind of motion. Okay, first of all. So it is experienced by an object. So the object which is doing the projectile movement is known as the projectile. Okay, that is thrown near the earth's surface. Near the earth's surface. That means I cannot project the particle with a speed which is very, very large. Because if I project the particle with a speed u, which is very, very large, that means that can escape the earth, gravity effect. So that means throughout the movement, what I am saying that the particle should be very near to the earth's surface. The condition means that the value of g is assumed to be constant. Okay. So this is the restriction. So under the action of gravity. So only gravity force is there acting on the particle, and that gravity force is also constant because I am projecting the particle at a very low speed. Okay. So these are the important parameters that I want to calculate regarding the projectile movement. First of all, I have to calculate what is the velocity at any time. Second one is the maximum height attained by the particle. Third is the horizontal range. Fourth is the time. And fifth is the equation of trajectory. So these are the unknown parameters I have to calculate. So that means something has to be known to us. So what is the known parameter? The point from where the projectile is being thrown is known as the point of projection. Let us say this is the point P from where I am projecting the particle with an initial velocity of u and angle of projection in theta. Okay, so the particle is projected at an angle theta with respect to the x-axis and with a velocity of u. So these three are the mainly known component, known parameter. So u, theta, and point P. So point P is the projectile that has been fired at that particular point. Now, after traveling a certain distance, let us say it is coming to this point, Q point. So this distance PQ is called the range. This distance PQ is called the range. And the maximum height is this much. So this is the maximum height, capital H. And in order to travel the particle from P to Q, so what is the time taken? That is called the total time taken, capital T. Okay. And I should know these parameters, how to calculate these parameters. Along with that, how the equation looks. So what is the equation of this path? That you should also understand. And if the particle is projecting with a velocity of u, that means u is going to be changed. So velocity at any time t, you have to calculate. Okay. So how to do the analysis? So two-dimensional motion is basically combination of two one-dimensional motion. So initially I am saying that the particle is projected from point P and it is moving with a velocity v. So can I say that at any instant v has two components? One is along x direction vx, another is along the vy. Okay. So that means what I am saying that the entire thing has to be combination basically of two different types of motion. One particle is projecting upward to the velocity of vy. Another particle is performing the horizontal motion with the speed of vx. Okay. So instead of assuming there are one single particle which is performing the projectile motion, I can assume that there are two particles which are to be combined in vectorial, because I have to add them to vectorial, so that I can get the feeling that one particle is moving upward and downward, another particle is moving along the straight path. Okay. Why? Because these two makes the combination of the entire motion. So projectile movement has to break into two components. One is the vertical component and is the horizontal. Once I make these two components clear, then only I can add the component or add the parameters. Okay. So we can break all the motion parameters along x and y. Okay. So projectile is basically combination of two linear motion. I have to understand the two-dimensional motion, but I simplify the problem by analyzing that it is a combination of two linear motion happening simultaneously. So both the particles are moving simultaneously. Instead of throwing one single ball along the projectile path, what I am doing, I am projecting two different balls. One is being projected along the x direction, and simultaneously another is being projected along the y direction with some different velocities. Okay. So we can do it easily with the knowledge of motion in one dimension and vector resolution. So both are to be applied over here, because motion in one dimension has to be applied, because instead of taking the particle to be moving in two different paths, I am saying that the particle is moving along one single direction. So let us say I project the particle with a velocity of u at an angle theta. So if I take the component of velocity, this component is called the component of velocity. So that is how much? That is equals to u cos theta. Similarly, if I take the component of velocity in y direction, this is called uy, that is u sin theta. So, and to the entire movement, when the particle is traveling from point A to point B for the entire path, so gravity is acting vertically downward. Okay. So that is the gravity effect is always along the y direction. There is no effect of gravity along the x direction. So ux is what? Ux is basically u cos theta. Uy is what? U sin theta. Ax is what? 0. So there is no acceleration on the x direction. Yes. Uy is equals to what? Minus. Because acceleration due to gravity is acting downward. And regarding the sign convention, sign convention is upward is positive. So y coordinate, this is a positive direction. X coordinate is negative. Downward is negative, rightward is positive, upward is positive. Okay. So since I know the u and x along this x direction, and I say that there is no acceleration along x direction. So particle is moving with constant speed. Okay, so there is not going to be change in speed. But there is this acceleration along the y direction. So this is the variable velocity. So here I can say the constant velocity prevails. Why? Because there is no acceleration. And in that situation, along the y direction, it is a variable velocity. It is a variable velocity. So at any time t, if I look, let us say the particle is over here. Actually, particle is at this point at any time t. So whatever the value of velocity along x direction, that remain unchanged. Why? Because along x direction there is no component of acceleration. Okay. But the velocity along y direction, it was uy initially, reduce up to vy. And this is the maximum point where the vy number will be 0, only ux will be there. Here the y component will be 0 because I know that once I throw a particle, it will reach a maximum height, and at that maximum height, velocity is equal to 0. Okay. Similarly, once the particle is moving from maximum point to the second point, that means the particle traveling from this point to this point on the right hand side. So in this situation, UVX is still in the right hand direction, but now the velocity along the y direction will change the direction. Okay. So only thing is that the velocity along y is going to be changed. It will first decrease from A to C point. Now from C to B, Vy will increase in the negative direction. Because particle is coming down. So it will be constant velocity along x direction and there is a variable velocity along y direction. Okay. Now based on that fact, I want to calculate what is the time of flight. So before that, I know that if I throw a project ball in the vertically upward direction with the speed of u, so it will move upward and then downward. So what is the time for that? I know that 2u by z is the sum of time of ascent plus time of descent. The same formula that can be applied over here also. Why? Because time of flight has to be equal to 2 times of uy by g. Okay. So uy is what? Uy is the component of velocity along the y direction, that is u sine theta. So time of flight can be written as 2 times of u sine theta by g. So this is the time it will take to move up and then down. That means if I throw the projectile at point A, so it will come down to point B, and in order to do that, how much time it will require? It will 2u sine theta by g. Okay, 2u sine theta by g. So that is the expression for the time of flight. Similarly, maximum height. ঠিক ঠিক এক্স এর দিকে অ্যাক্সেলারেশন আছে এতক্ষণ তো দুইটাই বকে যাচ্ছি ও বাপরে বাপ বললাম না একটু মাথাটাকে পরিষ্কার কর আবর্জনা ভর্তি একেবারে তোর মাথায় ভার্টিক্যাল প্রজেকশন যখন করা হচ্ছে বলকে যখন উপরে ছোড়া হচ্ছে নামছে যখন তখন গ্র্যাভিটি রয়েছে অরিজিনালি গ্র্যাভিটি আছে নাকি এর তাহলে খুঁজে করছিস এক্স এর দিকে তো কোনো অ্যাক্সেলারেশন নেই আমি তো বললাম সেটা কনস্ট্যান্ট ভেলোসিটি ওয়াই এর দিকে আছে সেই কারণে টাইমটা ওয়াই এর দিক দিয়ে বেরোচ্ছে এক্স এর দিক দিয়ে বেরোচ্ছে না So now for the maximum height. So if I throw the ball with the speed of u in the upward direction, so it will reach a height which is equals to h max, that is equal to u square by 2g, that we know from the vertical motion study. Same formula can be applied over here. Only thing is that h has to be replaced by uy square by 2. What is uy? Uy is u sine theta. So formula u sine theta whole square by 2. So this is the maximum height attained by the particle, that is called the capital H number. Okay. And last is the range. তো আবার ডিপেন্ড করছে অঙ্কতে কি দেওয়া রয়েছে হ্যাঁ সেটা আমি কেমন করে বলবো আমার তো অত মাথায় বুদ্ধি নেই যে 10 দেবো 9.8 দেবো এখানে এই লেভেলে এসে জিটা কি ধরলে সেটা ম্যাটার করে না ঠিক আছে আনসারটা মোস্ট অফ দ্য সিচুয়েশন জিটা দেওয়াই থাকবে হ্যাঁ তুই জি ধরে যে আনসারটা পেলি সেটাই ম্যাটার জি এর টার্মস এইখানে আর ওইটা থাকে না যে জিটা 9.8 দেওয়া থাকবে 9.78 দেওয়া থাকবে 9.82 দেওয়া থাকবে দিয়ে ক্যালকুলেট ওইটা দেখা হয় না ওইটা দেখার বয়স পেরিয়ে গেছে কারণ একটা লেভেল হ্যাঁ এখন যদি মনে করি নিজেকে 9-এ পড়ছিস তাহলে বিপদ আছে হ্যাঁ আমি তো সেটাই বলছি এখনো তো 9.8 নেবো না 9.9 নেবো এগুলো তর্ক করে লাভ নেই কখনোই আর ওইটা জিজ্ঞেস করার দরকার পড়বে না কারণ আইদার অঙ্ক দেওয়া থাকবে 9.8 নাও বা 10 নাও বা কিছুই বলা থাকবে না আনসারটা জি এর টার্মসে দেওয়া বা কিছুই বলা থাকবে না আনসারটা কিছুই দেওয়া থাকবে না জি এর টার্মসে জি রেখে 10 নিয়ে যে আনসার সেটাই আনসার ঠিক আছে এইসব নিয়ে বলার তো করতে হবে না যে জিটা কত সেটা একদমই ইমেটেরিয়াল সিচুয়েশন কখনোই কোনো কাজে আসবে Next is the horizontal range. Horizontal range is nothing but the distance traveled by the particle once it is being thrown from point A to point B. So distance between point A to B is called the horizontal range. And I know that this is the displacement along the x direction. So AB is nothing but the displacement, is called the displacement along x direction. And I know that Along x direction, there is no component of acceleration. So displacement can be written as simply ux into capital T. What is that? Ux is the velocity along x direction and capital T is the total time taken by the ball to reach on the ground again. So I can simply put this value that ux is equal to u cos theta and capital T equals to 2u sin theta by g. Okay. Or that can be written as u square 2 sin theta cos theta into whole divided by g, and this is basically u square sine 2 theta by g. Okay. So either you can remember this formula because this formula is helpful always. Okay. Or you can apply the r simply as ux into it. So that is more used compared to remembering the u square sine 2 theta by g formula. Okay. So this is the range of the projectile. That means this is the maximum horizontal distance traveled by the particle in that given time capital T. So capital T is the time of flight. বল লিখে নে প্রত্যেকটাই লিখে নে বাবা so next is the analysis of the maximum so you say that r equals to u square sine 2 theta by g. So this is the r now if I say let us say there is two projectile it is projected with a velocity of u at this point a now say another projectile it is b is projected with same velocity u same velocity u but this angle let us say this is alpha and this angle let us say beta. So I observe that both the particles land at this point. That means these 2 points are same. Okay. So that means range for projectile A and range for projectile B both are same. That means what I can say RA number should be the RB number. Okay. Now what is RA? RA is simply u square sine of 2 alpha by G should be equal to u square sine of 2 beta by G. Okay. So both the particle A and B are projected with the same speed and they are landed at the same point. That means the range is same. So I can equate these two equations. So once you equate these two, what I can write that sine of 2 alpha equals to sine of 2 beta. So one solution is either alpha equals to beta. No, this is the first solution. But if I say that sine 2 of beta can also be written as sine of 180 minus 2 beta. Okay. That means what you can write 2 alpha should be equal to 180 minus 2 beta or alpha plus beta 2 times should be equals to 180. 90. That is alpha plus beta equals to 90. Okay, that means both of these two particles, if they are projected at an angle of complementary to each other, alpha plus beta, so alpha is projected with an angle 30 degree, complementary to 30 degree is 60 degree. Okay, when we both will land on the same particular point, that means the horizontal range will be same, provided both are thrown with the same speed. So this is the important conclusion. That means if the two projectiles are being projected from the same point with the same velocity u and angle is complementary to each other, then they will land on the same point. Okay. So that means same for any two angle. If I say one angle is alpha, so another angle is beta, such that if you add these two, that angle is 90. Okay. So every time you have to check it that if these two are angle 90 degree, that means they will land on the same point. That is 20 and 70. They will land on the same point. 30 and 60, both will land on the same point. 45, complementary is 45. So again it will land on the same point. Okay. Now one interesting format from this situation is that so if I throw the particle with an angle of 45 degree, alpha equals to 45 degree, then you observe that the range is the maximum. No particle can cross this 45 mark. So R is maximum over here. Why? Because I know that R equals to U square by G into sine 2 theta. Now, what is the maximum value of sine 2 theta? Maximum value of sine 2 theta is 1. Okay. And under that situation, R max should be how much? R max should be equals to U square by G only. And sine 2 theta equals to 1 means sine 2 theta equals to sine 90 degree. If I say this is the condition for maximum, sine 2 theta should be equal to 1, that means sine 2 theta should be equal to sine of 90 degree. That means 2 theta equals to 90 degree. That means theta equals to 45 degree. So once I throw the particle at an angle of theta equals to 45 degree, then what we observe that the range will be maximum. That means the particle will travel maximum original distance with the maximum condition. No particle can cross that particular point. No particle. If I throw the projectile, you see. No particle can create more than value of r, which is created by the 45-degree angle. So that is the maximum possible range once the particle is thrown with the velocity of u. Okay. And when I compare the maximum range, that is for each and every particle, the value of u should be same. Okay. And another interesting fact regarding this point is that, so if I throw the particle at 20 and 70, both will reach the ground at the same point, but the 70 particle, that is the particle B, will attain a much higher value of H compared to the A particle. So for the A particle, let us say this is the HA number and this is the HB particle. So the particle which is thrown with a higher angle should reach with the higher altitude. That is the H height, maximum height will be also more. Okay. So these are the important observations that is made from these two. So every time as I increase the angle, so if I increase the angle to 75 degree, now 60 degree, now 45, now 30, now 15, all the angles will clearly indicate that the H number is decreasing. Okay. So from 75, gradually the H number is decreasing and range is maximum over here, R is maximum. No particle can cross this point. Why? Because that point is thrown with a velocity of 45 degree. Okay. So range of projectile is same for any two angles which are complementary to each other and they must be projected with the same velocity. If I project the velocity of one particle with, let us say, 10 meter per second and project another particle with another velocity 20 meter per second, then I cannot say both will reach the same point. Okay. So you have to compare between the two particles and these two particles are reaching on the ground at the same point. That means you have to say that both the particles are being projected with the same speed. Okay. Now, so if I say R is this form, R is this number, U square sine 2 theta by G. Okay. So I know that for theta equals to 45 degree, I am getting the maximum range, that is U square by G. And I want to calculate what is the value of H for that max. I know the formula for H, that is the maximum height attained by the particle is U square sine square theta by 2G. So in this equation, if I put theta equals to 45 degree, so it becomes U square sine square 45 by 2G and sine square 45 means 1 by 2. So U square by 4. Okay. So this is the height attained by the particle when the particle is thrown with an angle of 45 degree. Now if I say this is the R number at 45 degree and this is the H number at 45 degree. Now if I take the ratio of R by H, now you take R by H ratio for 45 degree situation because I am analyzing the situation for the 45 degree. So R is what? R is basically U square by G and H is what? U square by 4G. U square by 4G. So ultimately this ratio gives the value of 4. Okay. Then the R by H ratio for 45 degree angle is equals to 4. That is not true for any situation. So only for this situation, that means horizontal range is 4 times the maximum. So that means if I project a particle, let us say I project a particle at point A with a value of U at an angle 45 degree. So by seeing this angle, I know that the range will be going to be maximum. Okay. Now if I say this range is, let us say, if I say this range is 100 meter, I am getting the value 100 meter, let us say. Okay. So corresponding to 100 meter, I can clearly say that the maximum height attained by the particle should be 100 by 4. So this H number should be always equal to 100 by 4. That is 25 meter. So that is only true for the particle projected with an angle 45, not for any other. If I project the same particle at an angle, let us say 30 degree, then I cannot say that R is 4 times of H. Okay. 4 times of E, that cannot be said. So it is only valid for the situation when the theta is 45, not for any other angle. Okay. That. So it is the 50 is the number which is U. So this component is UX. That is 50 cos 37. That means 50 into 4 by 5. That is 40. So 40 is the velocity along x direction component of velocity along the x direction. Similarly, if I calculate the Uy, so Uy should be 50 sine 37. So uy gives 50 sine 37, 50 into sine of 37 means 50 into 3 by 5, that is 30. So first calculate the x component and y component of the velocity once the particle is projected at point P. Now I know that along the y direction the gravity effect is there. Along the x direction there is no gravity effect. So first I want to calculate what is the range of the project. So for that I should know the capital T. So first parameter that we want to calculate the capital T. So what is capital T? Capital T is basically 2 times of uy by g. This is the formula. So what is the uy? Uy is 30. So 2 into 30 by 10, 6 seconds. Okay. So if I throw the particle from point A, now the particle will be grounded at point B after 6 seconds. First parameter. Second parameter that you want to calculate is called the basically the maximum height. H equals to uy square by 2g. Okay. Uy is 30. So 30 into 30 by 20. So that means 30 into 3 by 2. That means 15, 45 meter. Okay. So maximum height attained by the particle is 45 meter. Now third parameter that I want to calculate is the range. Now what is R? R is basically Ux into capital T. What is Ux? Ux is 40 and capital T is 6. This 2 for chemical. So these are the basic parameters that I want to measure first of all. Okay. Though in the question you are not asked to do that, but I am using this concept to calculate this RHT number. Okay. So first you have to be clear that you can calculate all those numbers, RHT number, provided information about only U and theta is given. Okay. So based on that, I calculate RHT. But in the question, it has been asked that you are asked to calculate the speed, position, displacement, and distance in 2 seconds. Now, since I say that particle will travel or total time of flight is 6 seconds, so at the midpoint, so once the particle is over here, let us say this is the point C. So here the time should be equal to exactly half of that, that is 3 seconds. So T at this point should be equal to 3 seconds. That means the particle will be somewhere over here at point P when the time is 2 seconds. Okay. So this will give the idea that where the particle is there. So I found that the particle is between A and C. What is C? C is the topmost position and A is the point from where the particle is being projected. Okay. Now at that point, I want to calculate the velocity. So I know that velocity along x is remaining same. What is that number? That is equals to ux number. That is 40. So there is no change in the velocity along x component. So velocity along y should be equal to how much? Uy minus g into t. Why negative? Because g is always negative. Okay. So what is that uy number? Uy becomes how much? Uy initially is 30 minus 10 into 2 in 10 meter. Okay. So once I calculate this number, so can I write the velocity as a vector form at point P? So velocity at point P in a vectorial manner it should be equals to Vxi, that is 40i plus 10j. Why? Because 40 is the x component, 10 is the y component. Okay. So once I calculate the velocity, so this is the velocity vector after 2 seconds. Now corresponding to that, what is the speed number? Speed is basically the mode of the velocity vector. Okay. That is equals to 100 over 40 square plus 10 square. We can calculate that and that will be the answer for the speed. Okay. Now I want to calculate the position. Now for position I want to calculate the coordinate. So position means displacement along x direction and displacement along y direction. Now if I write displacement along x direction, that should be equal to how much? Ux into t. Why? Because the particle is moving constant speed along the x direction, so no acceleration. So what is Ux? Ux is 40. So 40 into t. T is how much? 2 seconds. Then 80 meters. So particle will displace by 80 meters along the x direction. And for y, what is the equation? That is uy into t minus half gt square. Because the particle is performing the vertical motion along the y direction. So for vertical motion, uyt minus half gt square. Uy is almost 30 into t is 2 seconds minus g by 2 means 5 into t square means 4. So 60 minus 20, that is 40 meters. Okay. So once I find the value of x and y, so that means that is the coordinate of point. So that means the position vector position vector at point P, that is RP vector, can I say that is equals to xi plus yj, that is equals to 80i plus 40j. Okay, so that will be the value of RP vector. Okay, corresponding to the displacement. So these are well, okay. So moving on to the next equation. So now you are asked to comment on the range of the two particles. Now A particle is projected with an angle of 42 degree. B particle is projected with an angle of 49. And if I add 42 plus 49, that is not equal to 90 degree. That means they are not complementary. Okay, that means they will not down at the same point. Let us say I am saying the blue particle is the A particle, and the red particle is the B particle. Okay. Now how to compare now? So for that, first of all, you have to understand that in between these two numbers, there is one angle that is called the 45 degree angle. So let us say this angle is 45. So when the particle is thrown at an angle 45 degree, it will travel the maximum distance. Why? Because it's the R max, I know that. So this is the position where the 45 degree particle will land, and that is the R. Okay. Yes. So now we have to check what is the difference of angle between these two particles. So for the first one, 42 and 45, that is the angle difference 3 degree. Okay. Here the angle difference is 4 degree. Okay. 4 degree. So more the angle difference, more is the difference of the distance. That means what? That means the particle, blue particle having an angle difference of 3 degrees, so it will go closer to this R max. Okay. A will land over there. And similarly, the difference between this blue particle, red particle is 4 degree. So red particle will land somewhat more closer to okay. So by this method, you have to check whether the particle will land at the same point or not, or there is any difference between these two. Okay. So higher the difference, away from the R max point, lower the difference, closer to the R max point. If both the difference are same, then they will land at the same point. That means they are going to be complementary each other. So now there is another situation. Now there are two particles. Again, the A particle is first particle, and the B particle is the blue particle, which is being thrown to same U, but at an angle theta and 90 minus theta. That means I know these two angles are complementary to each other. That means they will land at the same point. Okay, so range for both of the particles are same. Now you are asked to calculate the relation between R, H1 and H2. What is the H1? H1 is the maximum height attained by the first particle, and H2 is the maximum height attained by the second particle. Okay, so both of these two H1 and H2 will be different. Why? Because they are thrown at different angles. Okay, now we have to write the relation between the R, H1 and H2. Okay. So let us say this angle is, let us say I am saying alpha, and let us say theta is equals to B. Okay. That means what I am saying, a particle is projected with an angle of beta, and another particle is projected with an angle Q, which is equals to alpha. Okay. So alpha plus beta equals to 90 degree means both will land at the same. I know that. So for the particle number, let us say this is the second particle, this is the first particle. So for the U2 particle, for the second particle, can I say that H2 for the second particle should be equals to how much? Uy square by 2. Uy square by 2. What is Uy? Uy for this should be equals to U sine beta. For the second particle, it is U square sine square beta by 2g. Similarly, H1 should be equals to Uy square by 2g, but now it is for the first particle, that is U square sine square alpha by 2g. Okay. Now put the value of alpha and beta. So I know that beta equals to theta and alpha equals to 90 minus theta. So it is written as U square sine square theta by 2g, and here it becomes U square sine alpha sine of 90 minus theta, that means cos theta. So U square cos square theta by 2g. Okay, so these are the value of H1 and H2. Now range remains same. What is that range value? So range is equal to, with any particle I can calculate. So let us say for the first particle, I am saying Ux into capital T for the first particle. Okay, what is ux? Ux is basically u cos beta into t means 2u sin beta by g. Okay, if I say the part will project with an angle beta, so then that is the so ultimately what I can say that 2u square by g in cos beta and sin beta. That is sin theta cos theta. No, what a leak. Okay. So now square the both sides. Now square the both sides. Let us read the equation number 1, equation number 2, equation number 3. Now squaring equation number 1 both sides. Squaring equation number 1. আমরা কি পাচ্ছি r square should be equal to 4 times into sin square theta cos square theta. Similarly, if I put the value of sin square theta from the equation number 2, sin square is how much? 2gh2 by u square. So 2gh2 by u square. Cos square theta is how much? 2gh1 by u square. 2gh1 by u square. Multiplied by 4 into the power 4 by v square. That is equal to r square. So everything cancels out. Everything cancels out. So u to the power 4, u square will cancel out. G square, G cancels out. So I am getting 4, 2, 2 means 16 H1, H2. Okay. So this is the final relation. That is R equals to 4 root H1, H2. This is the final relation. Okay. So this is the relation between the H1, H2 when their particles are projected in different angle alpha and beta such that these alpha and beta are complementary to each other. Now the second topic of this part is the equation of trajectory. Equation of trajectory. So I want to calculate what is the equation of this part. So for that what you could do, again I fill the table. So if I say this is a ux, ux is what? Ux is basically u cos theta. Uy is u sin theta. Minus g, it is 0. X equals to what? X is the displacement of the particle along the x direction. So that should be simply u cos theta into t. Similarly, y is the displacement of the particle along the y direction. U sin theta into t minus half dt square. Okay. So u sin theta into t minus half dt square. So separately I get the value of x and y. Now what you have to do? You have to eliminate the time. So from equation, this equation, what is the value of t? T should be equal to x by u cos theta. Okay, t should be equal to x by u cos theta. Now put it over in the second equation. So second equation gives y equals to u sin theta into t. So instead of t, I am writing x by u cos theta minus half gt square means g by 2 into t square. T square means x by u cos theta whole square. Okay, so further simplification gives x sin theta by cos theta means tan theta minus gx square by 2u square into 1 by cos square. 1 by cos square means sec square theta and sec square theta can also be written as 1 plus tan square theta. That is 1 plus tan square. Okay, so this is the final equation relation between x and y. So this is called the equation project. So y equals to x tan theta minus gx square by 2u square into 1 plus tan square theta. That is the equation of the trajectory. And it clearly says that the variation is parabolic in nature. Why x power 3 is coming? This is the quadratic equation. So since this is a quadratic equation, so I can comment that this path is parabolic in nature. It's a parabolic path. Okay. So displacement equation or the y versus the x equation is called the equation trajectory is a parabola. Okay, is a parabola. So if the equation is given, let us say y equals to this form of equation. So now you are asked to calculate the value of u and theta. So that means the parabola equation is given. Now I have to compare this equation with our most general equation. So what is our equation? Our equation is y equals to x tan theta minus gx square by 2u square into 1 plus tan theta. If you compare between these two equations, so what I can compare that coefficient of x is root 3 over. So here the coefficient of x is tan theta. So I can clearly say that tan theta equals to root 3. Okay. So equate the coefficient in equation number 1 and equation number 2. Root 3 সেটাকে লিখতে চলেছি বাবু। So theta becomes 60 degree. So once theta equals 60 degree, now compare the coefficient of x square. So coefficient of x square is minus 1. So here the coefficient of x square is minus g by 2 u square. So minus 1 should be equals to minus g by 2 u square into 1 plus tan square theta. And tan square theta is 3. Okay. So negative negative cancels out. So ultimately I am getting 2 u square equals to 40. That means u square equals to 20. So u becomes root 20. Okay. So these are the two answers. So whenever the equation trajectory is given to you, and if it is in the form of y versus x equation given, so every time try to compare with this equation. So that is the equation, basic equation. So once I compare the two equations, now I can conclude about the theta. And once I know the value of theta, on the next part, I can get the value of u also. Okay. So one form of parabolic equation is this equation, x tan theta minus g x square by 2 u square into that. So now I look for another equation. Why? Why this equation is essential? Because in some situation, the value of u may not be given to you. U value may not be given to you. So for that, you should go for another type of equation. What is that equation? So I will start with the same basic equation. That is what? That is equal to y equals to x tan theta minus gx square by 2 u square into 1 plus tan square theta, and 1 plus tan square theta I am writing as sec square. Okay. 1 by sec square theta, no? Only sec square theta. So gx square by 2 u square into sec square. That is the first equation that we had already written. Now we want to modify. Now how to modify it? So in some situation, the value of range may be given to instead of giving the value of r. So if r is given, instead of giving the value of u, in some situation the value of r may be given. So if r is given, so I know that r number is how much? R number is u square sine 2 theta by g. Okay, so this is the r value. So I can use this number. So from this, what I am calculating? I am calculating the number g by u square. What is that number? So g by u square means sine 2 theta by r. Okay, sine 2 theta by r. So if the value of r is given, so I can calculate the value of g by u square from the r equation and put it over here. So here the value is x tan theta minus x square by 2 multiplied by g by u square into sec square theta. Now instead of g by u square, in this part g by u square I am putting sine 2 theta by r. So once I put the number sine 2 theta by r, so that means 2 sine theta cos theta divided by r. That is g by u square number multiplied by x square by 2 and sec square theta. Now we say 1 by cos square theta. Okay. So that is equals to x tan theta minus this number. So now if I simplify this, so this 2 cancels out. So 1 cos will be cancelling out. So 2 ultimately what I am getting, x tan theta minus x square by r into sine theta by cos theta means tan theta. Okay. So finally, if I take x tan theta common, that should be equal to 1 minus x by r. That is equals to y. So this is the another form of the projectile equation where there is no u. Okay. So first equation that we have derived is valid when u is known. When u is known. And in the second situation, I derive another equation where there is no information about the u. Only r has to be. So when r is known. So depending on the situation, depending on the nature of the problem, I should either use equation number 1 or equation number 2. Okay. So equation number 1 has to be used for the situation where the value of u is given to you. And equation number 2 has to be used for the situation where the value of r is given to you. Okay. So either I can use equation 1 or equation 2. Okay. So let us do some particle which is thrown in such a way so that it will just clear the wall. So this is the wall and particle is thrown from point A, let us say, just touching the wall. That means what I can say, this is the point which is on the parabola. Okay, B is a point which is lying on the parabola because it is touching the wall. Now you are asked to calculate the u and theta. Now for this situation, the value of u is not given, so you are asked to calculate that u now. That means I should use the second format of the equation. Why? Because it is given that the particle is thrown from a point A, which is at a distance of 4 meters from the wall, and it lands on the other point B, the other point let us say C, such that this 14 meter. So clearly R is 14 plus 4, that is 18 meter. So information about the R is known for this situation. That means I should go for the equation number 2. So equation number 2 says that y should be equals to x tan theta into 1 minus x by r. 1 minus x. So if I apply this equation and this equation is satisfied by the point B, why point B is lying on the parabola itself. So for point B, what you can write, y for point B should be equals to x for point B into tan theta multiplied by 1 minus x for point B divided by r. Now put the value. Now what is the coordinate of x and y for the point B? That is 4, 4. Okay, so 4, 4 is the point B coordinate. Why? Because I am saying that point is, origin is at point A. So putting 4, 4, so this is 4, this is equals to 4 tan theta 1 minus 4 by 18. So 1 should be equal to tan theta into 14 by 18. That means tan theta becomes how much? Tan theta becomes 18 by 40. That means 9 by 7. So once I know the value of tan theta, now I can calculate the value of u. Why? Because for this situation, if I say this is the right angle triangle, so this is angle theta, so tan theta is 9 by 7, so this number is 9, this number is 7. Now what about this hypotenuse? Hypotenuse is root of 81 plus 49. So how much? 130. 130. So that is root of 130. So that means the value of sin theta is how much? Sin theta can be said as 9 by root of 130. What is cos theta? Cos theta is 7 by root of 130. Okay, 7 by root of 130. So with this I can calculate the R now. So what is our formula for R is equals to u square by g into 2 times sin theta into cos theta. The put this number. So R is how much? R is 18. U is unknown, so u square by 10 into 2 into sin theta is how much? 9 by root 130. 9 by root 1. Cos theta is 7 by root of 130. So simplify this, it will give the value of u. Okay. So by this method I can calculate the value of u and theta. Okay. So whether the angle is given or u is given, depending on that you have to choose whether I should go for the equation number 1 or equation number 2. Okay. Now, so far what we discussed is that time of flight or range basically when the projectile is fired from the ground. If the projectile is fired from a certain height, not on the ground, so now the projectile is projected from point A, it reach at point B. Now, the point from where it has been released is basically the point of range. So now I have to put our axis system at point A. So this is the y-axis, this is the x-axis. Okay. Now we can resolve the component. So here the u is along the x-axis. So I can say clearly the initial velocity along y direction is 0. Initial velocity along x is simply u. Acceleration along y direction is equals to minus g. Acceleration along x direction is 0. Okay, so there is no change. So with this information I can write the velocity at any instant of time or time of flight, all those things I can write it. So first, in this type of problem, first step is to calculate the time. How much time it will take. So for that you have to take the vertical direction. So particle is following vertical direction and displacement on the vertical direction is h. So I can write h equals to ut plus half gt square. This is for along equation number 1, along the y direction. So u is 0, u is 0 and h is negative because I am measuring the displacement from point A, so I am moving downward, h is negative. And g is always negative, minus half gt square. So that means it gives t equals to under root of 2h by h. Okay. So this is the time inside which the particle will fall on the ground. Okay. And once I know the particle is falling on the ground after this much amount of time, so with that time, what is the displacement along x direction? That is basically our range. What is that range? That's simply our value along the x direction is u. U is the velocity into root of 2h by v. Okay. U into t will give the whole of r. So that is the range. Okay. So if the same projectile is fired with some angle, if the same projectile is fired with some angle, let us say I am projecting the particle with q at an angle alpha. Now the component along x and y will come. And accordingly, you have to fill the table. And accordingly, you have to take the sign component also. Regarding the sign, every time, if the particle is projected upward, that means it is positive. If the particle is moving downward, it is negative. Okay. So now the last segment of this is the inclined plane. So far, what we say that only acceleration is there along the x direction, along the y direction, there is no acceleration along the x direction. But once I throw the particle along an inclined plane, so acceleration will be in the both the directions. Let us say I am projecting the particle in this direction, u. Okay, at an angle alpha. Alpha is with the inclined plane, and the inclined plane angle is, let us say, this angle is beta. Okay, so in this equation, the acceleration will be there in both x and y. So that will make the problem somewhat difficult for inclined plane projection. So whenever I am projecting the particle, so first of all I have to understand that the plane which is along the axis, so this is said to be the x plane, and plane which is perpendicular to the inclined plane, that is the y plane. So every time I take this kind of approximation. So here, if I say this is the alpha angle and this is say the beta angle, okay. Now acceleration due to gravity at any point is acting downward g. Okay, acceleration due to gravity is acting vertically downward. So this g is not along y direction. Why? Y is somewhat inclined. So g is vertically downward. Now if I take the component of g, so if I say this angle is beta, so this angle will be 90 minus beta. This angle will be 90 minus beta. So component of g along the plane should be equal to g cos of 90 minus beta, that means g sin beta. And component of acceleration which is perpendicular to the plane should be equal to g cos beta. Now these two are basically the acceleration along the y direction, and this is nothing but the acceleration along the x direction. Why? Because I choose the x and y as parallel to the plane and perpendicular to the plane. So now the acceleration along both the directions, one is gx or ax, another is the ay. Okay. So this is the situation where the particle is projected in inclined direction from a point. Now the particle is affected by two types of acceleration, both along x and both along y. Now since the acceleration is both along x and both along y, so particle will move in accelerated motion in both the x and y direction. Okay. So let us say in this situation, can I say that if I say the fill the table, let us say I am saying ux. So what is ux? Ux should be equal to simply u cos of alpha minus beta. Why? Because I am interested about this angle. This angle is alpha minus beta. Okay. So alpha is the total angle, beta is the angle of inclination. So ux, that is the velocity along x direction, should be ux, should be u cos of alpha minus beta. Similarly, uy should be equal to how much? U sin of alpha minus beta. Okay. And depending on the angle of projection beta, so first draw this g. So g is acting downward. So along the plane should be always be g sin beta. And the perpendicular to the plane should be always be g cos beta. Okay, you don't have to take the component every time. You have to remember this concept that along the plane it is g sin beta and perpendicular to the plane is g cos beta. So acceleration in x direction, acceleration in x should be minus of g sin beta. Why? Because x is positive in the upward direction, the acceleration is coming in the negative direction. So acceleration should be negative. Similarly, ay should be equals to how much? Again minus g cos beta. So that means now the particle has both acceleration along x and y. Okay. So that means for x, I should use this equation displacement along x. I want to calculate what is the displacement along x. It should be equals to x into t minus half plus or plus half ax into t square. So this is the equation for displacement along x. Equation for displacement along y should be equals to uy into t plus half ay into t square. Okay. So along both x and y, you have to apply the concept of acceleration. Okay, that is not the situation for the simple projectile motion, where I take the acceleration only along the y direction, no component of acceleration coming along the x direction. Okay, so now I have already written the parameters. What are the parameters along x and y? Now straightforward I go inside this problem. Let us say I want to calculate this equation, the r, t and h. This. Okay, so for that I have to prepare the table. Now, first of all, the alpha angle is 74 degree, beta angle is 37 degree, so alpha minus beta is 37 degree. So, alpha minus beta is equal to 37. So, I know that. Okay. So, along x direction and along y direction, I am writing separately. What is the ux number? Ux should be equal to 100 cos of alpha minus. Okay, ux equals to 100 cos of alpha minus beta. So, 100 cos 37. Cos 37 is 4 by 5. So, 80. It is 80 meter per second. Similarly, uy should be equals to 100 sine of alpha minus beta. That means this 3 by 5, so it is 60. Okay, so this is the x and y component velocity. Now calculate the value of acceleration. So ax should be equals to how much? Ax should be equals to minus g sine of beta. Why? Along x direction, acceleration is always g sine. So this is the g sine beta component. Okay, and this is the g cos beta component. So both are supposed to be negative because x is upward positive. So minus g sine beta. So minus g sine beta means minus 10 and beta means for 37 degree. So sine of 37 degree. So that means it is minus 6. Similarly, ay equals to minus g cos of beta. So minus 10 cos of 37. And cos 37 4 by 5, that is minus 8. So once I fill the table, now I can apply the formula that we have learned in the projectile situation. Okay. So now for the first calculate the capital. First calculate the capital. So what is the formula for? So 2uy by g that we have written in the same projectile. But here you have to define this result by saying 2uy divided by ay. What is g? G was the acceleration in the y direction. Now here ay is the acceleration in the y direction. So you can simplify this by defining the g number to ay. So what is ay? So 2 into 60 and it is 8. Okay. So that is 15 seconds. So 15 seconds is the time of travel. Now once I calculate the t number, now I can calculate the h number. So this is the first step to calculate the t number, then calculate the h number. Now what is the h number? Second is the h number. So formula for h was uy square by 2. Now again you have to replace it by uy square by 2 times of ay. What is uy square? Uy is 60 into 60 by 2 times ay is 8. Okay. So that means 225 meter. Okay. So it is 225 meter. So 225 is the horizontal maximum height attained by the particle. That means this is the maximum height attained by the particle, that is 225 meters. It is 225 meters. And this is the time for. Now I want to calculate the range. Now for range is nothing but the displacement along the x direction. Okay. So r is basically equals to ux into capital T minus half ax into capital T. That means displacement travel in capital T time along x direction, because x direction the particle is also accelerating. So that will be the value of r along the x. So what is ux? Ux is 8t. What is t? T is 15 seconds. Ax is negative, so minus 6 by 2 into 15 square. Okay, so one simplification, if you get this number, so that will be the value of r. So this is the way how we can calculate the r, t and e for this type of situation where the particle is being projected in inclined manner. Okay. So every time you calculate the component of acceleration, component of velocity along x and y, and regarding the x and y, you have to take about the point which is perpendicular to the plane along the y-axis and parallel to the plane of the x-axis. Now, what you understand under this situation is that along x direction the particle is accelerating, along y direction the particle is also accelerating. Okay, that means there is change in velocity in x and y both. Okay. Now you are asked to calculate the relationship between alpha and beta so that the particle hits perpendicular to the plane. So that means if you throw the particle at point A, now the particle is hitting at point B, which is perpendicular to the plane of paper. So that means at point B, there is no component of velocity along the x direction because of hitting perpendicular means this velocity is parallel to the y-axis. This velocity is parallel to the y-axis. That means only Vy is there. So at this point, I say that Vx is 0. So this is the condition of perpendicular hitting. So perpendicular hitting means Vx should be 0. So once I say hey, Vx is equal to 0, that means equal to how much? That is equal to Ux minus Ax into T. That number is equal to 0. Okay. So what is Ux? Ux is basically U cos beta. And what is X? I know the G sin alpha into T. That is equal to 0. So from that, I can calculate the value of T. So what is T number? T number should be U cos beta by G sin alpha. So this is the basically the total time of flight. Okay, after that time, the velocity of x direction becomes 0. And that means at that particular point, the particle is hitting the ground. That means at point B, one of the particles touching. At this point, what is the time duration? So that is the T time. Now, another T can be obtained, that is the time of flight, by another equation, that is capital T equals to 2 times of Uy by Ay. That equation can be applied. So, Uy is how much? U sin beta. So, U sin beta. And what is Ay? A cos beta, G cos beta. Okay. G cos alpha. G cos alpha. Because angle of inclination is alpha, not beta. Okay. Now, if I equate these two numbers, then the required relation will come. So what I am saying that 2 times of U sin beta divided by G cos alpha should be equals to our U cos beta by G sin alpha. Okay. So U and G both are cancelled out. So sin alpha by cos alpha means tan alpha. So tan alpha, 2 times tan alpha should be equals to how much? Cos beta by sin beta means cot beta. That is the required relation so that the particle will hit. That is the relation between alpha and beta. That is the relation between alpha and beta so that the particle will hit at point B, which is perpendicular to the plane. Okay. Now, if the particle is projected from top of the plane, now the particle is moving down. Now there is a difference. So if I project the particle at an angle 53 degrees from point A, so now our axis system will change. So X axis should be down in the plane and Y should be perpendicular to the plane. This is the y-axis. Okay. So now, if I again write the table, so for this, what is the Ux number? Ux should be equals to 50 cos 53. 50 cos of 53. So cos 53 means 3 by 5, that means 30. Okay. So what is Uy? Uy is 50 sin 53. That is 40. Okay. Now this is true. Now Ax. What is Ax? Ax is the acceleration and acceleration. Now if I take the component of G, so this is G acting down. The component of G will be along the x-axis. Along the x-axis, now it becomes positive. So what is that component? If this angle is 37 degrees, that is G sin 37. Okay. So Ax become positive. That is the difference. Acceleration of Ax will become positive. Why? Because it is aligned along the x direction. So how much? That is G sin 37. And G sin 37. Now what is G sin 37? G sin 10 into 3 by 5. That means 6. Okay. Similarly, Ay should be equals to how much? Ay equals to minus G cos 37. Why? Because minus opposite to y-axis. Opposite to y. Acceleration of y is opposite. Component of G is opposite to the y direction. So it will be minus G sin 37 means minus 8. Okay, minus 8 meter per second square. Now again you are asked to calculate the range. So whenever you are asked to calculate the range, so first of all you have to calculate the total time of flight. So what is capital T? Capital T formula is simply 2 Uy by Ay. What is Uy? So 2 into 40 by 8. So 10 seconds. So after 10 seconds, the particle will ground. So now we are asked to calculate the distance between A and B, that is the range. Now what is that range? So AB, that is equals to R, should be written as Ux into T plus half AX into T square. Now what is that T number? T is 10 seconds. So Ux is what? ux is 30 into 10 plus half ax is 6 into 10 square means 100. Okay, so it is 300 plus 300. That means total 600. So 600 meter is the range. So only difference between the down the plane projection or up the plane projection is that down the plane projection acceleration x become positive. Okay, this number become positive. So this is the difference. And if you throw the same ball from the bottom of the plane, that is from the point B, then the acceleration become negative. So you have to resolve the component carefully and take the sign properly. Okay. So there is no change in the t, capital T number, because it gives the 2 uy by ay. Ay is always negative. Okay, ay is always negative. So it will be same formula. Okay, it will be same formula. Okay.